have arrived at one of the most anticipated moments of the program, the keynote speech session. This session brings together experience, wisdom, and a vision, the perfect opportunity for us to learn from somebody who has made a remarkable contribution in their field. So before we begin, I would like to call Professor Jude Williams-Janilo and our respected keynote speaker, Dr. Tuazon, on the stage. Okay, now that we're all set, now I would like to request Professor Dr. Jude Williams-Janilo to come up on the stage to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker today. The stage is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Nasrin. Okay, so we have a very exciting session. Okay, one reason is because of the topic. We have set the stage yesterday. We were saying that, yes, AI now is into the picture, and from the theme of the conference, media transformed, or actually it's media disrupted at the beginning, Bangladesh at the crossroads. So the topic's very interesting because our speaker will talk about 6 triggers that call for why we need to reinvent ourselves. Okay? We could not stay the same because of technology. Okay? And he will be talking about this. And the second reason is because our speaker is really very renowned. And we got him all the way from the Philippines and flew him here. Thanks to AIUB for that, because he is really very important. So I'll be reading out his CV, but I'll not read everything because it's really long. I'll read only the highlights. So Ramon Guillermo R. Tuazon is the Secretary General of the Asian Media Information and Communication Center, or what we know as AMIC. From June 2020 to August 2024, he served as Communication and Information Specialist at UNESCO in Yangon. He also served UNESCO in various capacities, including as representative of the UNESCO Regional Director to the UN Country Team in the Philippines. At the UNESCO headquarters in Paris, his work included resource mobilization. He was project coordinator of the first model journalism curriculum project of UNESCO in Paris in 2005. So we remember this because we always follow that as a chair of a department. This is the Red Book, and they were suggesting a curriculum for all of us. So it was one of the main sources of reference that we look at for curriculum development. So he was part of that. He coordinated that. He served as chairman of the Philippine Commission on Higher Education Technical Committee for Communication from 2006 to 2024. He is currently a member of the CHED Technical Working Group for Graduate Programs from 2018 to the present. He is a member of the steering committee of the World Journalism Education Council 2025 to 2028. So this is a very important regional organization, global organization that I think we need to be part of as well in Bangladesh. So Mr. Tuazon was president of the Asian Institute of Journalism and Communication from 2007 to 2020. Okay. Mr. Tuazon has over 35 years of experience in strategic communication planning, management, and evaluation in communication agencies and development programs. His engagements in the latter are as team leader or member in international and national projects. These projects were supported by bilateral and national multilateral agencies such as the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, European Union, various UN agencies, and EU-based NGOs. He was a project director of the EU-funded Safeguarding Press Freedom in the Philippines, 2018 to 2020, which produced the world's first national plan of action on the safety of journalists. He also does consultancy services in Myanmar, Bhutan, Indonesia, Cambodia, Laos, Maldives, and France. Okay. Now, I'll not continue reading because it's still long, but on a personal note, I have known Ramon Tuazon ever since I was a fresh graduate at the university, so you could imagine it was way, way back. And he has always inspired us as fresh graduates because the people we usually see seated in the podium were usually senior people. They were all senior people, and Ramon was the only young one there. And because he was there, we felt that we were represented. And he was showing us the way forward in moving into this career. And that's why he was able to inspire us then, and he is also inspiring us now. Still keep pushing us with new ideas. So just a while ago, he had a fresh idea about what to do after listening to the panel that I shared earlier. So anyway, without further ado, let's listen to the main event. Mr. Ramon Tuazon, you have the floor.
Shubho and Domoba, Dr. Jude Hanilo. I remember when Dr. Jude Hanilo was taking his comprehensive exam. Comprehensive exam at the UP, College of Media and Communication. I saw him taking the exam. I was there when you were doing your exam. And the rest is history. So can I borrow the clicker, please? So, okay, we'll start then. Can I go to the first slide? Oops.
Sir, let me help you, sir.
Okay, can I go to the first slide? Will it be shown on the screen? Okay. I have more than 50 slides, but I will not show all of them. And also, the paper is available. I have a 16, 17-page paper. And I shared the paper with Professor Rani, and if you want a copy, they can be shared with you. So you don't have to take photos of my presentation or my slides. And I would request everyone to please join me so that I don't do the talking, but I would request everybody to participate as well. So, am I on?
So just a second. On the 8th, we're connecting this laptop with the central one.
Okay. While they're waiting, Dr. Jude mentioned earlier that when I was in his technical panel session this morning, an idea came to me, and I said, why don't we organize a Asian theory festival. Because I was listening to the panels since yesterday, and most of the theories, and it's not only here, most of the theories that our students cite are theories from the West. And yet there are many theories developed based on Asian religion, philosophy, art, and culture. So I was thinking, maybe one of these days I will organize a forum wherein only Asian theories based on religion, philosophy, culture will be presented, so that we will be aware of what's happening to us, right? So let me now go to my first screen. I'd like to comment on the theme, Media Transformed Asia at the Crossroads. And I said, it aptly highlights two distinct yet interrelated developments. Media ecosystem is in a flux. I think I heard Dr. Henilo mention this yesterday. And also Asia's multifaceted disruptions across political, economic, sociocultural fronts, largely attributed to media transformation. And I identified 6 triggers that necessitate reinventing communication and journalism education and practice in Asia. My intent is to have a dialogue with all of you. You're all experts, you have experience, to seek, not to seek consensus, but to generate more questions and hopefully answers to these questions if we can find them. Okay, so I'll start by the first trigger. The first trigger is what we have been talking about since yesterday. In your small groups, in the big sessions held here at the auditorium. The first is digital transformation. It's a brave new digital world, correct? All sectors are undergoing profound digital transformation. And when I say digital transformation, and I will borrow definition of my former organization, UNESCO, it involves 3 areas, as we all know. Digitization of documents, for example, digitalization, and finally, technological integration. That is when we bring in digitalization in all the processes that we do, right? Different from content creation, dissemination, sharing, everything from in your registration work, in their university work, you introduce digitalization. But unless you introduce them in the system of work that we do, that is not digital transformation. So integration is very important. Okay, here are some questions that we have to answer in the context of digital transformation that we are now experiencing. How are communication media processes, tools, and outputs revolutionized by AI, large language models, and algorithms? In the few sessions that I was able to attend since yesterday, these questions seem to be repeated. There were many presentations which show how, for example, in this morning's sessions, how AI has changed the way we do things, inside, outside the newsrooms, inside, outside our classrooms, and so on. The second question is, are communication practitioners equipped with new digital competencies? Third, are we preparing the next generation of communicators to be future-proofed and adaptable in an increasing digital world? Jude mentioned earlier that I was chair of our technical panel of our Ministry of Higher Education, involved in developing the curricula for communication graduate programs. And one of the courses that I encourage schools to introduce is futurism and foresight thinking. I said that it's about time that such a competency should be given to young communication, foresight thinking and futurism. Another question is ethics part of digital transformation equation? To answer these questions, the AMIC conference a few weeks ago in Mumbai came up with the AMIC Mumbai Declaration, Shaping Asia's Digital Future with Integrity and Inclusion. And I'd like to acknowledge my colleague in AMIC, our representative for Bangladesh, Dr. Shamim Reza. Thank you, Dr. Shamim, for always being part of AMIC. And of course, Dr. Jude Henilo is Technical Working Group Chair of another AMIC working group. So what did we put in this? What did we integrate in the AMIC Mumbai Declaration? The title, Shaping Asia's Digital Future with Information, Integrity, and Inclusion. And later on, I'll go back to the word information integrity. First is that freedom of expression must be protected with safeguards against hate speech, disinformation, and online harm. Wow. The issue of hate speech and online harm is all over Asia. And we have to address these issues. Second, ethical standards must advance. Media professionals, educators, communicators must uphold accountability, transparency, and respect. I think this is a very good reminder, especially listening to the last session last night among the journalists who were with us. Okay. The third one is information integrity is essential for public trust, content credibility, and democratic participation. I have a feeling that I'm summarizing what were discussed in the sessions yesterday. But in the last two plenary sessions, these were also key words which I heard: public trust, content, credibility, and democratic participation. Especially the word trust. I heard it several times in the last session yesterday. Digital literacy for all is the foundation of 21st century skill. Before, we're always referred to reading, writing, arithmetic, the 3 R's. Now it's incomplete. We have to have digital literacy for all. Then, more on the Mumbai Declaration. The benefits of digital technology must be shared equitably. Next, young people like me should play a central role in shaping digital transformation. And when we talk of young people, in recent past, Bangladesh has shown the transformative role of young people. For better or for worse, this model was copied by other Asian countries, right? Nepal, Indonesia, and even in the Philippines. We're at the forefront of protests against massive, systemic, structured corruption are young people. Next is we endorse the UNESCO guidelines for governance of digital platforms. I call your attention to this not because I used to work with UNESCO, but I think it's a very good document which explains to us how do we deal with digital platforms. We always think of regulation when it comes to governance of digital platforms. But how do you regulate? In this document, it's very interesting because in this document, we said there are 3 types of regulatory ecosystem. Number 1 is the state regulation. Number 2 is self-regulation. And number 3 is co-regulation. Which type fits Bangladesh or any Asian society for that matter? In fact, next year, there's a project with support from UNESCO that AMIC and the University of Diponegoro in Indonesia were doing a study on governance of digital platforms in ASEAN. But we need to look at what is the best model to regulate digital platforms because technology companies like Google and Meta and TikTok, they don't care. They don't care about us. Their operations is not transparent. And yet they are very powerful. How do we deal with these big multinational, transnational technology companies? Number 2, and this is my favorite, decolonizing communication education. There's an increasing interest to promote the colonial discourse among international associations like AMIC or IAMCR in Singapore, and Dr. Reza was with me there. You know, how do I define decolonization? And you may or may not agree, but my own definition is that decolonization refers to the process of undoing or dismantling ideologies, systems, structures imposed by colonial powers upon their colonized nations, as the latter seeks to restore their autonomy, sovereignty, identity, and heritage. Colonialism is not only manifested in the political economic system, but also in the socio-cultural system of colonized nations, in the mindsets of colonized people, making the process of decolonization difficult, requiring systemic and structural changes in education especially. The question perhaps that you should ask or we should ask ourselves, to what extent have we decolonized our communication and journalism or education? To what extent have we decolonized our educational system, period? We don't even have to look at the journalism and communication program, but the entire journalism in the entire education system. Have we decolonized them or not? I know Bangladesh was under British rule for over 200 years. The Philippines was under Spanish rule for 300 years. Very difficult, at least I can say as a Filipino, very difficult to decolonize Philippine education system. Decolonization is on top of the agenda of the historic 1955 Bandung Conference, and I invite you to read the Bandung Conference. It is the first attempt by countries in the South. 29 countries from Asia and Africa adopted the Bandung Declaration. For obvious reasons, Bangladesh was not included because it's 1955. If I'm not mistaken, at that time, Bangladesh was still part of Pakistan. But I'm sure if it was an independent nation at that time, Bangladesh would have joined the Bandung Conference. Was there. Yeah. You see? So in 2023, the 29th AMIC Conference, we rekindled the Bandung spirit. AMIC adopted the AMIC Bandung Conference Declaration, which seeks partnership with African institutions in communication, education, research, and publications. What are we doing? What we're saying is that enough of too much reference to the West, because we can learn more from the South. We have more commonalities with the South than with the West. So more of South-South declaration. In China, last year, one of our plenary speakers reminded us, don't just seek partnership with Africa. You also go to Latin America because there are many commonalities with Latin American countries. And tomorrow I have a dialogue with Latin American professors in communication because we would like to discover what can we do as a group towards decolonization. Why is there a need for decolonization discourse in communication and journalism? First, we would like to highlight Asian indigenous paradigm, including Asian philosophies, religions, thoughts, or at least balance the dominance of Western paradigms and standards. I'd like to give an example. Theory of fake news. If you talk about theory of fake news, and I'm almost tempted to ask a recitation today, what theories would our teachers teach? We'll tell them about framing theory, right? You will teach your students about agenda setting. You'll teach your students about cognitive bias, and so on and so forth. Why aren't we teaching the Buddhist Eightfold Path as part of understanding so-called fake news or disinformation? Why? There are many lessons that we can cite. The Buddhist tenets of right speech, or Samuvaka, is a very good framework for understanding Asian perspective on so-called fake news. What do this Samuvaka includes? It includes right speech abhors slander and calumny. Right speech presupposes absence of harsh language, meaning hate speech. Right? Speech should be separated from all types of falsehoods, and so on and so forth. This is just one, Buddhism. And yet, we are so enamored by Western theories and models of disinformation, of framing, of agenda setting, of dissonance, and so on and so forth. When our own Asian theories are older than Western theories and models. That is why I mentioned to Dr. Jude earlier, and Xiamin, let's have an Asian theory festival, not necessarily in communication, and discover what do Asian philosophies teach us about falsehood, about disinformation, about hate speech. And maybe, I'm sure we will learn a lot from them. This is very important. Less dependence on Western theories and rediscovering communication theories. I'd like to show you the book. This is the book that we published, second edition, 2022. Communication Theory, the Asian Perspective. From cover to cover, it talks about Asian philosophies, arts, culture, and history. From China, India, Philippines, I can't recall the others. Iran. Majid Tehranian has a very good paper on this. Then we look at China, Taoism, and so on and so forth. Why is it that communication scholars, me included, has been enamored by Western theories? It pains me that in AMIC, and I must accept in AMIC conference, Dr. Shamin, in AMIC conference, when you ask our young scholars to present their abstract, they quote diffusion of innovation, users and gratification. I don't feel gratified listening to theories of the West only. But I'm not saying that we should stop. I'm saying that we should balance the dominance of Western paradigms and standards. Now, I was telling Dr. Shamin, we're thinking of coming up with the third edition of this book. And I have discussions with one of the academic publishers. So colonization imposes Western ideologies, devaluing and erasing indigenous knowledge and practices. Highlight indigenous knowledge. In Myanmar, during my last 2 years in Myanmar, I prepared a lot of projects. I implemented projects discovering indigenous knowledge on a particular topic of very, very importance to all of us, peace. I did a research, or I commissioned a research on customary or traditional peace-building practices in Myanmar. You know, in Myanmar, unfortunately, there is also conflict among different ethnic groups. I'm not sure if this is true in Bangladesh. But what we discovered in Myanmar is what makes you common rather than different from other tribes, from other ethnic groups. And how do you pursue peace? Using customary or traditional peace-building practices. In fact, such customary traditional peace-building practices should go into your lessons on communication theory, right? Very, very important. So, retracing the evolution of communication tools to Asia, printing, paper, you name it, they were all invented by Asians. China, for example, started the paper and the printing. Do you know that the QR code is from Japan? You see? There are many others that come from Asia. Yet, they are now being used by Western commercial companies. Aside from QR code, there's one more, the DVD. Although DVD is no longer present, are now being used. DVD is from South Korea, and so on. We need to decolonize to discover that there are many communication tools models which came from Asia. Challenging and correcting endemic discrimination and biases. Some archival documents can be sourced of original disinformation or fake news. Let me explain further. The original scene of fake news come from archives, Western archives. Why? Because the documents that you read from Western archives are mostly written by colonials from their colonial perspectives and thinking and their own definition of what is true and what is the history of colonized nations. And therefore, I dare to say the original fake news comes from archives. I'm very happy in the last session that you had, Dr. Jude, there was reference to archiving. We really need to reform the archiving system. I have a very bad experience with archiving. Doctrina Christiana is the oldest book, the first printed book in the Philippines in the 1500s. We wanted to nominate Doctrina Christiana in the UNESCO Register, International Register of Memory of the World last year. Unfortunately, we were not able to register it because there are only 2 documents of Doctrina Christiana, the original. They're found in the US Library of Congress, and the other one, for obvious reason, is in Rome. One of these archives did not endorse our proposal to register Doctrina Christiana in the UNESCO Memory of the World. So unfair. In the first place, how did the original Doctrina Christiana get into the West? They must have taken it from us. We need, you're all researchers. You need to get permission from Western archives to do research. We need to reform the archival system. And then, addressing the threats of AI. Will AI reinforce colonial biases? I think this is something that we have not discussed, even in so many forums about AI. AI content are dominated by content produced from mainstream. AI content produced by colonials. Our indigenous people have not has not contributed a single word or sentence available in AI world. Why? Because they don't even have access to technology. How do you expect our indigenous people? So what are we accessing? How can indigenous people contribute to the knowledge system if their knowledge, way of life, etc. is not part? Because what you access, what you enjoy in your chat GPT are all from colonial masters. So AI can reinforce biases and even inaccuracies when data sets available are used to reflect only perspective from mainstream communities, whether mainstream globally or mainstream communities within your country. There can be bias when data sets are based on historical or archival data that embed these biases. That's why AMIC supports the call for continued discussion on AI Decolonial Manifesto. I will not present this, but you can download the AI Decolonial Manifesto as a very useful reading, especially for teachers and educators. Very interesting, the African scholar Alvin, I cannot pronounce his name, Binyane, just very recently proposed decolonizing journalism education. You should get a copy of his paper. It's in my paper, in the references of my paper. He said that this can be done by integrating indigenous knowledge systems, focusing on educational sovereignty as proposed by Michelle Bishop, another scholar, in 2020. We always define news from Western standards. I have no quarrel with that. But this scholar, African scholar, tells us this is an option. Decolonizing journalism education. So, quote, indigenous knowledge offers a rich, immersive learning experience outside formal schooling, rooted in cultural heritage and holistic understanding, challenging rigid structures of Western education. End of quote. Our dear educators, have you ever thought of restructuring our knowledge system and to manifest what is indigenous in our system? Or are we just duplicating what we have learned or what the West, the Americans, have taught us as a standards? Sovereignty in education involves a radical shift from colonial-controlled schooling to an educational system based on indigenous ontologies, epistemologies, and methodologies. He proposes the application of Bishop's elements of indigenous education sovereignty into journalism education. So that's one key word that we need to review. I'm sure you have encountered this in the past. Education sovereignty. So these are the 6 elements applied in journalism education as described. Pattern thinking, time, intergenerational reciprocity, which is very interesting. We always think of news sources, but when you talk of news sources, Bishop said intergenerational reciprocity, co-creating curriculum in journalism education with elders, with people from other generations, and so on and so forth. Nurturing independent journalists through indigenous knowledge, which we have already forgotten, rationality, and so on and so forth. See? So scholars and researchers from the South should examine how to decolonize the global archiving system. And I think I mentioned this earlier. So what are we doing in AMIC? We will update this book on communication theory. We have the Asian Journal of Communication in Media Asia. Media Asia started in 1974, which remains one of the best 2 journals for Asian scholars. I hope you subscribe to both. We continue with our dialogue on commonalities, diversities, and complexities of Asian and Western communication theories. We're not saying totally no to Western theories, but we need to understand how we adapt them, ADAPT. The third trigger is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and transdisciplinary ecosystem of communication discipline. In your panel, Dr. Jude, I noticed that you have a business teacher in business education, you have a computer engineer, and so on and so forth. Let us remove the disciplinal silos, because to understand communication, we have to learn from the inputs of other disciplines. I think, so I defined what is interdisciplinary, what is multidisciplinary. An example of multidisciplinary study is a book that I co-edited Crimes and Unpunishment, the Killing of Filipino Journalists. The chapters were contributed by experts from other disciplines: anthropology, psychology, political economy, and communication studies. To understand the problem of journalism, we need inputs even from anthropologists. The sociologists said there is the theory of moral exclusion. What does it mean? If you are not part of our group, of our tribe, of our team, you are dispensable. Wow. So you can be killed because you're not part of us. So look at sociology. What can we learn from sociology? So we now look at transdisciplinary. When you use inputs from the natural, social, and health sciences, and even humanities to understand communication issues. Let us avoid being too narrow with our discipline. And my paper includes the source, the full paper of Dr. Pietro Dominici. I think it's one of the best papers that argues for interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity. I will just quote a portion. It says, those who will succeed in the future, social and cultural innovation belongs to those who will succeed in healing the fracture between human and technological, redefining, rethinking of complex relationship between the natural and the artificial, bring knowledge and skills together, how to unite and merge two cultures, science and humanities, both in terms of education and formative training. We can do something to promote interdisciplinarity. So further, fragmentation and reclusion within the narrow borders of disciplines. Disciplines which are even more isolated and incapable of communicating with one another. Are we guilty? Are we guilty? Okay. My paper would cite examples of how universities worldwide are adopting inter, multi, and transdisciplinarity. In Georgia Institute of Computer Science, they introduced computing and media thread, which requires students to take courses in communication, writing, liberal arts. Remember, you're talking here of engineering students, teaching them about writing and liberal arts. According to them, they're able to produce better engineers, and so on. So the fourth trigger is journalism as a public good and the issue of information integrity. In this slide, I just want to highlight that UNESCO recognizes news and information as a public good that every individual should be entitled to. And the World Press Freedom identified 3 conditions needed for journalism to be part of information as a public good. Media viability, which was explained very well in last night's panel discussion. Transparency in online platforms, especially by big technology companies, and media and information literacy. I will advertise my book, which I co-authored with many others, Think Critically, Click Wisely. You can download it. It's a book published by UNESCO. So I will skip AI and the philosophy of education. We've been discussing AI, so I will skip the trigger 5. What I want to highlight is that just one point. When you look at technology, when you look at AI, don't forget that it is marked by values and interests of its developers. There's a human element in the development of AI. There's a social element in the development of AI. Let us stop looking at AI from a purely engineering or technical perspective. Don't forget the human or the social element in artificial intelligence. My last point, the last trigger, I think, is the narrowing democratic space worldwide, and perhaps including in Bangladesh. The sinking democratic space, coupled with ongoing or continuing threats and attacks to freedom of expression, profoundly affects journalism and communication, education, and practice. The Global State of Democracy report, which is very credible, provides an annual analysis of democratization across the globe. The paper also provides the source for this paper. What does this report say? According to the 2025 Global State of Democracy report, representation category was the strongest overall. The highest number of declines occurred in rule of law, especially in the factor of judicial independence. Within the rights category, the most extensive global decline occurred in freedom of the press, followed by freedom of expression, economic equality, and access to justice. So this report includes the Asia-Pacific portion of the report that noted significant decline in the factor level outnumbered advances across the whole region. The Asia-Pacific section of the report also has reference on Bangladesh. Very interesting analysis of what's happening in Bangladesh. Last few slides. The UNESCO Observatory, and some of you may already know this, the Observatory of Killed Journalists reported as of October 2025, 1,825 journalists killed since 1993, and 77 journalists already killed this year, courtesy of Gaza, right? In terms of judicial status, only 13% has been resolved by the courts. By gender, 92% of killed journalists are male. The observatory's data on Bangladesh, 35 killed since 1993, including 2 this year. But another report says there's only 1. I don't know which is correct. Maybe in terms of the definition of who a journalist is. The judicial status in Bangladesh is that only 11% has been resolved, while ongoing unresolved cases is 41%. Okay, the RSF World Press Freedom Index present a sobering, very sobering global situation. And let me go to paragraph sentence 2, which relates to yesterday's panel discussion on the economic factor of press freedom. It says that the economic indicator on the RSF World Press Index now stands at an unprecedented critical low as it declines continue in 2025. Because yesterday we were talking about the economic factor in press freedom. As a result, the global state of the press is now classified as a difficult situation for the first time in the history of the index. Thank you for the economic problems that we are all experiencing. Bangladesh Press Freedom Index, I'm sure you know this, is 33.71 out of 100, ranking 149 out of 180 countries. This score indicates, quote, a very serious press freedom situation. The Press Freedom Index score for 2024 was 27.64 out of 100, ranking 165th out of 180 countries. Did we improve? Finally, the 6 triggers are an urgent call to action, highlighting the need to reform not only communication and journalism education and practice, but overall education and media system. We will not have any impact if the overall education and media system remain as what they are today. While these triggers are part of global scenario, responding to these challenges demands local contextualization to be culturally appropriate and relevant. The triggers that I have identified are in no way prioritized, exclusive, or complete. There are equally important triggers that demand attention and response to create a truly relevant communication and journalism education practice, especially in Bangladesh. Can you suggest other triggers relevant to Bangladesh? I rest my case. Thank you very much for patiently listening.
Okay, so there you have it, the 6 triggers why we have to change, or why we need to change the things that we're doing as media educators. So let's have 1 or 2 comments or questions. Okay, Professor Alam. Mic to Professor Alam. Okay, so trigger 1, digital transformation. Trigger 2, decolonizing education.
So thank you, Ramon. I thoroughly enjoyed your talk. So, but you know, I have some conceptual contradiction. I like the idea of decolonization. When you are talking about decolonization, on the one hand, on the other hand, you are using examples of Japan and RSF. Because if you think about Japan, if you ask a Chinese and a Korean, they will say that, you know, Japan is another colonizer. Then how do you accept Japan as an example? Okay, then second one, should we uncritically accept RSF when we are talking about decolonization? Should we rely on their indexing, or we should be problematizing their indexing? Okay, so that is one point. Then second one is about, you know, the problem with Asian communication theory, because I have been following Asian communication theory for a long time. But my problem with the Asian communication theory is, you know, the way Asian communication theory defines culture is very limited. Because, you know, can you talk about culture without relating it with political economy? Because if you don't talk about politics, if you don't talk about economics, can you study culture? Because, you know, if we go back to Raymond Williams warned us long time ago that we cannot do that. Culture is a way of life, so we have to study culture in relation to other issues as well. So thank you.
Okay, so let's have Ramon.
Yes, I totally agree with you, especially in the use of the RSF index, for example. Early on, I've been telling my former colleagues at UNESCO, can we take a look at the indicators of RSF on what is press freedom or the absence of press freedom? Unfortunately, there's no real honest effort to redefine or to define the different indicators of press freedom. But in the absence, then we have to use these indicators. This is the reason why also the UNESCO Observatory was introduced, because at least the UNESCO Observatory does not present a particular bias for a particular perspective on what is press freedom, because UNESCO by itself is how do we call it? It represents different countries, right? So indeed, we have to look at the possibility of defining our own indices. However, there are some basic standards that are already incorporated in these indices. Whether you're from the South or the West or wherever, these are basic standards that we know should be measured. Killing of journalists. Whether you're from the South or from the West, killing is killing. And that has to be defined. The aspect of economic may be something that we have to improve on, because economic freedom is part of the index. We know very well that there are some nuances when we define economic indicators in the indices. However, there is a need for a standard. There is a need for a global standard so that we can at least compare. At least we can compare our standing to the global setting. Regarding the absence of political element, the absence of cultural.
Political economy is the cultural issue.
Yes, the absence of political economy. I don't totally agree, but that should be something that has to be identified. But in the meantime, when I studied I'm glad you mentioned that, sir, because when we studied the issue of impunity in the killing of journalists in the Philippines, we highlighted political economy. And what do I mean? We said that perpetrators of crime, when they see that the cost of killing is cheaper than being caught, being put to jail, and so on and so forth, they would continue to commit crime. And that is the political economy aspect of impunity in the killing of journalists. But again, to answer your concern, I think that in general, we bring in culture and politics and society into the picture. I don't see any divide. I don't see any divide. That's why we want more comprehensive, more holistic examination of issues. But it's a debate. I agree.
Okay, Professor Shamim. Microphone for Professor Shamim. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Ramon, for your very interesting speech. My good friend Ramon and my occasional colleague and good friend, also Jude. Good to see you here, both of you. My question is also a little bit similar to Professor Alam's. It's a digital future, and you mentioned that we should orient our future communication educators, be it in the academia or in the practice of journalism, to be digital. So with that, keeping that in mind, and also decolonizing our education system, including media and communication education, how do we make a balance? Because you also mentioned that there are biases. There are Western bias in artificial intelligence and online platforms and everything. Everything digital is created by the West, managed by the West. And the whole knowledge system based on the digital future is again the Western. So how do you make a balance between the process of decolonization and also still accepting the domination technologically, politically, economy-wise in the digital future? Also, when we refer to decolonizing, we very straightforward refer to the Spanish rule or the British rule or so on, which has obviously impacted our education system, our knowledge structure. They have made it upside down, very straightforward way. But will you not criticize the modernization again, the project after Second World War? We never call it as an extension of colonization. That also, kind of replaced your traditional system. And now we are trying to revive that system and try to look into our own sources of communication theories, ideas, the theories of culture, in our history, philosophy, blah, blah. So isn't it creating a kind of contradictory situation? And will you also not criticize modernization, which also, established the basis of communication education as we are continuing today?
Shamin, I don't have an answer, I think, to your questions, but they are very, very relevant. And I think, but modernization.
Okay, I have an observation actually.
Okay.
Okay, Okay, thank you, thank you.
Maybe you can already, since you started
The
asking.
question is similar for like that.
Maybe your question is easier than what Shamin asked.
No.
So you just ask
Yeah,
so that he
please.
can answer the two of you.
My question is already related to Professor Shamim Brazestar. Actually, you know that in Bangladesh, not a Bangladesh, is subcontinent. We are in 1947. We in Indian subcontinent, and before that, we have a very strong, actually, an academic cultures. Students are go to their guru's house, that is their teacher's house. They can learn their own environment. So after you can call from decolonization set up from our education system and everything's our communication module. So we have an already established model from at that time, from ancient time. We have a very good practice.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. So I think it's clear what your question is.
Okay.
Because I'm sorry because we
I
are
know that very
under
time is
time
very,
pressure.
constrained.
Let's now go to Shoma.
Uh,
Ask your question, Shoma, because we already heard your point.
Okay.
And then Shoma's the last.
Okay,
And
good,
then
thank
he will just answer.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so very much, Professor Dr.
Ramon.
Raymond. It was truly wonderful to hear you, the way how you talk, because you spoke my mind. Maybe I don't know. It's my grooming. It's Nogogi. It's Fanon, and it's my all Eastern, passion for Eastern myths like Mahabharata and Ramayana. So, as you were speaking, decolonizing the mind, from my experience as I teach development communication, as we experience that it's heavily, extremely, dangerously Western biased. And whatever, white skin suggests is the Bible of the verse. So we, the brown skins, we are always their responsibilities. But what I try is that development communication, it should be. I mean, you can't think about communication or media or journalism. I mean, if the whole point is missing. So the point I'm trying to make, it's not particularly a question. I not only liked, I loved the way how you spoke. So thank you so very much for bringing your issue. And also, I would really tell you, because if I'm not mistaken, 2 years back, we had another conference, Alum sir, where you invited your professor, one of the Chinese professors, sir. Alum sir, you remember? She also spoke the very similar way. So it's kind of like I'm feeling that I'm not alone in this part of this corner. So please, you keep your flag flying, and we are following you. Thank you so much.
Very quickly, in 10 seconds, can I make my question simpler?
Sure, please.
Very simply, my question was, how are you going to make a balance between the West-led digital future and decolonizing our education system? Very specifically, media and communication system. That was the first one. And second one, when you are making a critique of decolonizing of the colonial structure and the process and the whole political economy, will you not criticize modernization, which again, be the paved way for establishing media and communication, education in this part of the world in particular? So how do you make a balance, and how do you, suggest us? Right?
I would ask you to write that question because I would like to reflect that further in the paper. But going on the first, the bias is embedded in the fact that we allow only a few to dominate even the knowledge creation portion, and the absence of knowledge from, for example, indigenous communities. And it is very difficult for indigenous communities to have a platform in the AI world because there are many difficulties that they have to go through. For example, even the matter of being connected. right? They have no connection, they have no digital connection, so it is very difficult for them. And I cited the case of even access to already digitized archival materials. We cannot even correct what is wrongly said about us, what were written about us by the colonial masters, because we don't have access to digital archives, to Western digital archives. But you're correct. I think there is, a key word is balance. How do we balance? But right now, the balance is, I have a friend in Thailand who teaches indigenous women, and she's also a friend of Jude. She teaches indigenous women to come up with beautiful designs using AI. That's balancing, right? But they're able to protect, preserve their culture, their indigenous culture using AI. The same way that AI can be used to cement the biases of the West. On the second issue, I forgot your second issue. I don't think modernization can be, and there could be a conflict. You can pursue modernization using local perspectives, local or indigenous mindsets, perhaps. Modernization need not be. Modernization need not be. Modernization need not be Western, I think. Right? I don't know if I'm making sense, but just very fast, because I'm enamored by the issue of political economy. This is how we define political economy. Rewards of killing are far greater than the cost of being detected, arrested, indicted, found guilty, and being punished. And this is true not only in the killing, it's not only true in the impunity, in the killing of journalists, but it is also true in the area on the issue of corruption. We do corruption because we know that the money you get from corruption is far greater than being detected, arrested, indicted, found guilty, and punished. The political economy of impunity in corruption, the political economy in the impunity of killing of journalists. Very sad.
Okay, so that ends the session. Give applause to our keynote speaker, Ramon Tuazon. I think that was a very difficult question and answer session. So we will proceed directly to the CJEN business meeting. Okay, let's have the slide. And please distribute. So as before, because we are visioning what will we do at CJEN, we'll be distributing papers to you. And please answer the question on the piece of paper. Okay. Okay, so let's settle down. Please sit down so that we can proceed with the we're now starting with the CJEN. So every time we have a CJEN conference, we have a business session. So now I'll be reporting on what CJEN has accomplished from the time we had our last conference till now. Okay, so first I'll talk about the CJEN annual conferences. Okay, so November 28 to 29, 2024 last year, we had a conference, the 9th conference, and the theme was Breaking Boundaries, Gen Z, Digital Transformation, and Journalism, New Journalism Education, and it was done in North-South University. Okay, so that was the one we did last year. Okay, now for this year, on April 11, it was announced that AIUB would be the next host, and this was where the announcement was made during the strategic planning session. So we could see here the picture of Priya, and then it was announced to Rani, okay, and many CJEN executive members were there. So we had the preparatory meeting a month or less than a month after that, on May 7. And we were here in AIUB, and you could see the people of AIUB. The Vice Chancellor was there, the Pro-Vice Chancellor was there, the board was there, I think the registrar was there as well, including Deutsche Welle representatives, and of course the convener for conference, Rani. Okay, and from there, on July 24, we made a call for papers, and the poster was brought out. Okay, so, and one important thing that was done was the 10th CJEN conference would not just be for networking, it will also be for knowledge generation. Okay, so now, October 24 and 25, we have the CJEN conference, and we basically had a baseline. So 15 papers presented by faculty, 1 paper presented by a professional, 42 papers presented by students. And we found out that, you know, not all faculty are media faculty. So it's just showing us that, you know, media educators, we don't really do much research if this was just the output that we have done for 2025. So I think this is really a big problem for us, because in engineering, you know, there will be 100 papers presented in a conference by faculty. That will also be for business. But why us? We only have 14, and then 1 is even from the business faculty. So we're not producing a lot. And I think this is a big problem we have. Why are we not producing? None of us are even mentioned as, you know, the most cited scholars. Because even if we write a lot, if Dr. Shamim and I, Professor Alam, even if we write a lot, but the other faculty don't read what we have written because you do not do research, then it's a problem. You know, if we don't read each other's work, it is a problem. And that's why I hope CJEN can do something about it, and that you would write it in the piece of paper that we have given you. However, there are 42 student papers that were presented in this conference, and I consider it, wow, at least we have a future with the students. But with the faculty, I'm sorry, I'm just very disappointed with how we have been not producing at all, or very little production with the faculty. But anyway, this is the baseline. At least we know we're not productive. Hopefully next year, the next CJEN conference will also include research presentations, and hopefully it's more than 14. Okay, now let's go to strategic planning, and that's why it's very important for us to do strategic planning. Okay, so on October 18, more than 30 communication journalism and media educators answered the call to be a part of the executive committee. Okay, so we formed that, and this was our first meeting. Okay, and then after that, we had 10 more meetings to discuss the strategic development plan of CJEN. So you could see here, meeting 1 to 10, so from October 18, and the topic up to February 27, and the topic you could see. So there were 10. And this is Susan Glaser. She's a DW Akademie consultant from Germany, and she helped us throughout the process online. So this is really good. And then we have a culminating workshop wherein we brought all the ideas together on October 18, and that's why you now have the CJEN Strategic Development Plan on the website of CJEN. Okay, so if we look at the CJEN website, then you would see it, one of the resource materials. So it's just there. Okay. Also to mention that we have a CJEN Facebook, and that's why hopefully you visit that from time to time and be a member of that Facebook group. Okay, now let's look at what are the collaboration opportunities we had. Okay, so first, April 11, we had an initial visit of Foyo Media Institute from Linnaeus University in Sweden. So they came to visit us, the executive committee members, just to have a feel of how education is in Bangladesh. And from there, they came up with the Agile project. And in the Agile project, one aspect of it is about developing future women leaders of tomorrow in journalism. And we had an open call. We asked different universities, are you interested? There is a small grant for this. And also, there will be a speaker who will be coming from Sweden. In fact, now, that's why Professor Shaidula is not here, and that's why Dr. Jamil Khan is not here from Daffodil, is because they're attending that conference now of Foyo Media. Okay, so it's a 5-day wherein the students, 10 female students from each university are there to learn how to be a future women leader. So that's one aspect of it. Another is the digital security training. This is now being given by Asia Center based in Bangkok and also Google. Okay, so it's a training by Google, and we made an open call again to different universities regarding this if you would like to host it. And there were 4 who responded: Daffodil University, ULab, AIUB, and State University. So there were 4 universities. So now the people from Asia Center will be coming here in November, and they would be doing this training for faculty and students. So that's another collaboration that we have done. Okay, so now let's look at research, training, and advocacy. Okay, so Deutsche Welle has, and yesterday you have listened, that they're trying to produce training modules on AI, on climate change, and other things. So on September 5, a professor from Dhaka University, Saifuli, was here yesterday. He introduced the AI journalism module to the CJEN members. So hopefully we get to examine this resource material, and we're able to do it in our respective universities. So you could see here Dr. Saiful and Priya. Another, so this is the training module, the cover, AI in journalism. Okay, we also had a meeting on June 26, wherein the executive committee members agreed that CJEN should be a signatory to the Venice Pledge. The Venice Pledge represents a commitment to the Global Alliance for Public Relations and Communication Management's responsible AI guiding principles. So we, as we always said, AI should not be seen only as technology. It should be seen also with the human element. So here, we have to look at AI through the lens of ethics. Okay, so what should we teach our students regarding being responsible in using AI? Okay, so we signed the pledge. And then for AMIC, we had, and of course our Secretary General is here, we had an agreement because we explained to him that it would be difficult for Bangladeshis to go to Mumbai to present their papers. And that's why AMIC agreed that we can present our papers online or pre-recorded. So this was one of the arrangements that we made with AMIC. And in fact, I saw a number of presenters from Bangladesh recorded messages. So I saw from Stanford University, there were people there who presented, recorded. Also from ULAB, Dr. Barba and Zulkar Naim presented. And also from the Central Women's University, she also presented. And State University also presented. So there were several presenters for Bangladesh that would not have been possible had AMIC not agreed to have online or recorded presentation. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so that is what we have done, but we know that we still need to do a lot, because talking about research alone, why is this the output of media educators is just so disappointing? And that's why I would like to listen to you, what you have written in the pieces of paper that were distributed to you. And then we would collect that paper later. So please give microphone. Let's listen to what you have written in the piece of paper. What do you want to see CJEN doing 2 years from now? You know, what should we have accomplished? Because we have to face it. If we're not collaborating, we don't have output.
Hello. Can I use Bengali language?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you everyone. CJN কনফারেন্সের সাথে আমি পরিচয় হয়েছি আরও 2 বছর আগে, যেটা অষ্টমবারের মতো ড্যাফোডিল ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ইউনিভার্সিটিতে হয়েছিল। তবে সেবার এবারের মতো এত বড় পরিসরে বা আমরা যারা আসলে স্টুডেন্ট ছিলাম তাদের জন্য এরকম বড় পরিসরে আয়োজন ছিল না। এবং এবার এসে আমরা দেখতে পেলাম যে অনেকগুলো চেঞ্জেস এসেছে এবং সব ধরনের কমিউনিটিকে আমরা দেখলাম যে এঙ্গেজড করা হয়েছে এখানে, যেখানে স্টুডেন্টরা আছেন, মিডিয়া পার্সোনালিটি আছেন, যেখানে আমরা দেখেছি যে যারা এডুকেটরস আছেন। তো কম্বাইন্ডলি ধরতে গেলে সিজেএন যেভাবে কাজ করে যাচ্ছে এটা সত্যি আসলে দারুণ। এবং আমরা এখানে যে পেপারগুলো এনেছি, কাজ করছি, এই পুরো ব্যাপারটা আসলে খুব কম আসলে এই ধরনের অর্গানাইজেশন থেকে আমরা পাই। সুতরাং এটা একটা বড় নেটওয়ার্কিংয়েরও বিষয়। আমরা এখানে অনেকগুলো বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের স্টুডেন্টদের সাথে পরিচয় হচ্ছি, টিচারদের সাথে পরিচয় হচ্ছি। এই ধরনের প্ল্যাটফর্ম, এই ধরনের সিচুয়েশন বা এই ধরনের একটা আয়োজন ক্রিয়েট করা আসলে আমাদের জন্য সত্যিই দুর্দান্ত। এবং আমি অবশ্যই আশা করব যে ভবিষ্যতেও এই ধরনের আয়োজন হবে এবং বাংলাদেশ বা এশিয়ান এই যে আমরা যে বিষয়গুলো নিয়ে কথা বলছি, এই রিজিয়নের যে আমাদের পিছিয়ে পড়া, আমরা প্রেস ফ্রিডম নিয়ে কথা বলছি, আমরা গতকাল যে সেশনে অংশগ্রহণ করেছিলাম সেখানে আমরা কথা বলেছি যে আমাদের আসলে সীমাবদ্ধতা, আমাদের যে বাধা বিপত্তিগুলো। তো আশা করব এই ধরনের রাউন্ড টেবিল বৈঠক থেকে শুরু করে বা আমাদের ডিসকাশন, রিসার্চ সবগুলো থেকে শুরু করে আমরা সেটা ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করব এবং ফিউচারে ডেফিনেটলি ভালো কিছু হবে, আমরা খুবই আশাবাদী। ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে।
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I translate?
Yeah. Okay, please.
Okay, Mr. Ravin is my student from Port City International University. Basically, he mentioned that from these years, 2025 CGN conference, from student involvement, very huge student involvement from this year, very amazing. And CJEN very free registration for the student. It's amazing. And also the engaging sessions, some roundtable discussions. It will very too much engaging for the students.
Yeah, so glad to get feedback from the young people because CJEN will be part of your future. So you have to tell us what you need so that we can incorporate it. Okay, so there's somebody raising hand. Okay.
The other city universities, just like Chattogram, as we know that different universities from Chattogram come here. Oh, this is Mohammad Nahidul Islam from ULab. So I think more collaboration is needed for from local level engagements, not only from Chattogram but also from Rajshahi, Borishal also. And I think CJEN can be, I said last year also, CJEN can be a platform where we from Chattogram, Rajshahi, Sylhet, learn from you and sir, ma'ams, and also Dhaka universities from Dhaka city, they can also learn from local teachers or the other city university teachers. So because it's very much important to know the local journalism part also. There is no only Dhaka-based journalism in our country. So I think this is my opinion or suggestion.
Thank you very much. Please write that down so we can get that feedback. Yeah, please.
Hello, I can share my experience. Can I speak in
Yeah,
Bengali?
please.
Okay. আমি এখানে প্রথমবারের মতোই এসেছি এবং আমি সেপ্টেম্বর থেকেই হচ্ছে সিজিএনে আসার জন্য নিজেকে প্রিপারেশন নিচ্ছিলাম, মানে এখানে আমি যেহেতু পেপার প্রেজেন্ট করব, তো আমি এই পেপার প্রেজেন্টেশন করা এবং এটার সাথে কানেক্টেড থাকা এবং জুলাই, সেপ্টেম্বর, অক্টোবর এই কয়েকটা মাস নিজেকে সিজিএনের কনফারেন্স নিয়ে কিভাবে আমি আরও ভালোভাবে প্রেজেন্ট করতে পারবো আমার প্রেজেন্টেশন, এটা নিয়ে আমি প্রিপারেশন নিয়েছিলাম। এবং এখানে এসে আমি নেটওয়ার্কিং আরও কীভাবে ইম্প্যাক্টফুলভাবে করা যায় এটা শিখতে পেরেছি। তারপর আমি সাথে হচ্ছে যে আমার মতো আরও অনেক নতুন গবেষকদেরকে দেখেছি যে তারা আরও আমার চেয়েও ভালো ভালো পেপার বা হচ্ছে আমার চেয়েও আরও খুব মানে ইম্প্যাক্টফুল কাজ করে এনেছে, যেগুলো থেকে আমি খুব অনেক কিছু নতুন কিছু শিখতে পেরেছি। তো দ্যাটস ইট।
Okay, Prashanta, you want to translate?
Pooja Ghosh, she mentioned about the CJEN paper presentations very strongly for the student side, and she get too much networking for the paper presentations and also the teachers comment. This is a very vibrant and very good platform to acquire from research and other engaging network platform.
Okay, glad to hear about that.
তারানা, আমি প্রথমবারের মতো হচ্ছে সিজিএনে প্রথমবারের মতো কনফারেন্সে যুক্ত হয়েছি এবং দ্যাটস ওয়ান্ডারফুল এক্সপিরিয়েন্স, দ্যাটস নেটওয়ার্ক, টক শো অ্যান্ড মাই প্রেজেন্টেশন, ইটস ওয়ান্ডারফুল। অ্যান্ড ইন ফিউচার আই থিঙ্ক আরও বেশি সুন্দর, আরও বেশি নেটওয়ার্কিং এবং সব কিছু আরও সুন্দরভাবে পাবো বলে আশা করছি আর কি।
Okay, thank you. Prashanta, you want?
She's Tarana, and she actually went to from the CJEN authority from the near future. That is student engagement from a large vessel. If you open the door from the student, and they will be very engaging from their side, because you know that the student are the real presenter, but real ambassador for our next future. So they are the main half. If we recognize and endorse it, it will be very fruitful for us.
Yeah. Okay, at the back. Oh, yeah, at the back. Oh, okay. So we'll get back to you later.
Hello, this is Jamal Hossein Razu from Kumilla University. I am very joyful that the conference was very wonderful to me. With my two friends, I am here present. Here I am learning how to develop our journalism, how to awareness about misinformation, and how to make a research paper presentation, etc., etc. And it's very, it will be very helpful to me. And thanks to CJEN conference committee to give the opportunity to us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. At the back. So what I'm getting is that we are on the right direction with the conference, opening it to students and young faculty. Okay, please.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Tajunesa Ritu. I have come from Khulna University in Mass Communication and Journalism discipline. I found that last year CJEN programs were held in our university, but that time I don't know why I didn't know why I attend there. But this time I attend here, and today was I have done my paper presentation, and everyone was praising. So that's a great opportunity for me, as I'm a graduate student, and I have completed my graduation and post-graduation. I am trying to building up my career in teaching profession. So everyone inspired me to come to this sector. So I think it's a plus point for me to think about my career and build up networking more and more and communicate with every person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations for your presentation.
You're most welcome, sir.
There.
Thank you. I'm Akram Hossein Rana from Chattogram, BGC Trust University. আমি শুরুতেই সিজেনকে ধন্যবাদ দিতে চাই এই চমৎকার একটি আয়োজনের জন্য। আমরা চট্টগ্রামের দুটি প্রাইভেট ইউনিভার্সিটি, পাবলিক ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে অসংখ্য স্টুডেন্ট এসেছি। এই কনফারেন্সে অংশ নিয়ে আমরা আসলে সমৃদ্ধ হয়েছি। আমার প্রথম প্রশ্নটা থাকবে এবার যে পরিসরে আয়োজনটা হয়েছে সিজেনের কনফারেন্স, ভবিষ্যতের যে আয়োজনগুলো হবে, এবার 10ম হয়েছে, আগামীবারে কি এই বড় পরিসরে এই আয়োজনটুকু থাকবে কিনা, এক। আর দ্বিতীয়ত, আমরা মূলত কয়েকজনের শিপ পার্টিসিপেন্ট হিসেবে আমরা কোনো পেপার সাবমিট করিনি, তো আমাদের আগ্রহটা অনেক বেশি বেড়ে গেছে আমরা বাদবাকি যারা প্রেজেন্ট করছে তাদের কাজগুলো দেখে। তো আমরা এর মধ্যে পেপার পড়া শুরু করেছি, তারপর কাজ শিখছি। আমরা কি সিজেনের সাথে কোনো সিজেনকে এমন কোনো উদ্যোগ নিতে পারে কি না যে আমরা তাদের ডিরেক্ট একাডেমিকভাবে বা আমরা পেপার পড়া এই সংক্রান্ত বিষয়ে আমরা শিখতে পারি, বা আমরা ট্রেনিং পাওয়ার মতো কোনো উদ্যোগ ইনিশিয়েটিভ তারা নিতে পারে কি না সিজেন? থ্যাংক ইউ।
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. He's Akram Hossein Rana, my student from Business Trust University of Bangladesh. They expressed their thanks to CJEN for organizing this such a nice event, and they feel that they have gathered a lot from this event, and they expect this prestigious event will continue in next year. And their specific question is that can CJEN arrange any workshop or training for students in research purpose and academic purpose? For this, they can enrich their academic life. And they suggested that CJEN should be spread out among the students around the country. It should not be confined into Dhaka, and their activities should reach out Chittagong, Rajshahi, and other rural areas of Bangladesh. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we will please write what you're suggesting on the piece of paper, and when the executive committee will meet, we can discuss those matters.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
It's Akia Jahan from Port City International University, Journalism and Media Studies Department.
I just want to thank CJEN and AIUB for the great hospitality and this opportunity for emerging researcher. I am currently studying in third year, but I'm really interested in research paper. I have worked as assistant in one paper, and I appreciate that you all gave an opportunity for us who can enjoy this much sessions and these inspiring people. All those sessions really inspired me. So thank you. I hope you all will arrange some workshop related to students like us who can learn. That would be really great. I appreciate this type of conference, but workshop would be greater to learn from deep. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, in front. I think students, you need to convince your faculty to be more productive in research.
Yeah.
Okay, Sajan.
So one quick thought. So the main agenda is how we can involve more academic in the season conference. So one of my proposal, so we select a host for every year, and it's basically roaming around. Can we collaborate with some other university dedicating some slot or some panel to highlight their university as a team that may create a competitive research culture, and it can encourage the faculty and student to come and compete and highlight their achievement. So that can be an encouraging and promotional activities. And we can give some award or something to encourage them, or to find some best of the best. So that can be thought of. Thank you.
Okay. So please write that, Dr. Sajjad, in your piece of paper, and we'll tackle that.
Hello, this is Mustafiz Rahman. I'm from Northern University of Business and Technology, Khulna. Actually, I have two suggestions for CJEN. This year we saw all the students and teachers were participating in each session, in each sessions. So I thought there would be better if there is separate sessions for students. And I was very excited about this workshop, AI, its practice in journalism and animation. But unfortunately, I thought workshop would be a two-way process, but it was a one-way process. So I think next time, if workshop is done, so it would be a two-way process, and we would be able to actively participate in those things. So that's my suggestion. Thank you.
So why do you want students separated from teachers in a panel?
Not all sessions. I actually, when they are talking about the research things, so if you have any proposal for the students that, okay, you can do these things and how to write a paper and how to do better in journalism, or in like in Khulna University, you have done separate sessions for students for mobile journalism and something like that. So I'd suggest that.
I understand your point about the workshop being interactive, but your first question is about, because now we mix faculty and students in panels to present. Is that not comfortable to you?
No, it's very comfortable, but I think students will be more participatory if there is separate sessions for them, only for students, dedicatedly for students. They will be more benefited. And if that could be a workshop or something like that, that would be better. It's my suggestion, it's not.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Thank you. I have a very specific proposal to you. Since CJEN has introduced research presentation session from this year, for the upcoming session in 2028 or 27 or whenever it will be held, since there is a research session, so it can be considered for giving some awards like best reward, best research award, best presenter awards, or something like this. You know, when you go to the ICA or some other like conference, AMIC or some other conferences, we see sometimes that yes, there are some awards for best presenter, best research, or something like this. So it can be an encouraging one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so actually that was the plan for this conference. We placed a deadline for full paper, but we found out nobody submitted by the deadline. So it meant nobody qualifies for best paper because there is no full paper at all. So maybe next time, if we become more productive and if the student force the faculty to be more productive, then maybe we can have entries for best paper. But this conference, it was a failed project. Okay, please.
Hello, everyone. This is Pooja from Journalism and Media Studies, University of Port City International University. So CJEN done a wonderful step for journalism students, and in this discipline, I think it is a great hub for networking with all the journalists, activists, researchers, and also for the journalism students especially. I will hope that CJEN will continue this for the last, and a request on behalf of all the students of journalism to take, if CJEN can take early project or any other researcher training session online based, so that journalism students can more interested in research, so that it will be more very easy for the students to take to submit paper in every year CJEN conference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your feedback. Anybody else who wants to give? Can I ask the volunteers, please collect the paper so that we can take a look at it? Anybody else want to speak? Next year, we will have another CJEN conference. Now, I would like to request, you know, if we make an open call, you have to respond to the open call in the proper format. Okay? It cannot be that you just send a text message to Priya or me and say, I'm interested. My university is interested. And then teach me how I can make the proposal. Okay, so it should not be like that. Okay, you have to submit a proposal following the guidelines that were given, and you have to apply. Okay, it cannot be that we will just talk behind the door and then it will be given to you. And also those who have hosted before, you can host once again. Okay, so there is no bar to a former host hosting CJEN once again. If AIUB wants to do it again next year, then they have to submit a proposal for that. But also, we have to discuss whether Dr. Sajja's suggestion, whether we should have a host temporarily for a number of years to let this grow. Because when it goes from one venue to another, then the rules change. Okay, and we don't want that to happen too much. Okay, so have we collected the papers already? You all submitted? Okay. The ones from up, maybe some people, a volunteer can get from up because she's waiting. No, I gave to Rani all. Okay, so with that, we're ending the business session of the CJEN conference. So thank you very much.
Someone else, thank you very much, sir. So thank you very much also for all the questions, and we're so happy that you're interested and that you have enjoyed our 2 days. But we still have some activities for later. So we will have the panel session after lunch and then the closing ceremony. So we are going to have lunch after like 20 minutes. So for those who wants to go for prayer, you can go to the masjid of AIUB just like yesterday. And then the same floor for the lunch venue, the 10th floor. So after like 20 minutes, I guess, or 15 minutes, you can go up. But for the meantime, you can roam around the campus if you want. And for those who haven't seen our poolside at the rooftop, you can also go there. It's just above the lunch room that we had. So it's just above that, a floor above. So you can also roam around there first if you want. So thank you. See you back after lunch. Thank you.